Hey guys, GT Machine here back. We're gonna do some more work to the GT4 here. We're gonna flush the brake fluid. It's been probably in there since brand new since 2016, and we're also gonna change the side markers. They're showing a little dirt in here, and I just don't like it. So we're gonna change them. They're cheap enough, and I'll go ahead and show you what we got. All right, like and subscribe if you like my videos, and leave any comments for any suggestions. Thank you. All right, so here's what we got. Genuine Porsche GT4 brake fluid here. Pretty cheap, got it from Suncoast Parts down in Florida. And then also here's the side markers, the clear ones, which if you have the factory orange ones, the clear ones give it a better look, and it's orange, and it just, to me, it looks sharper and it looks newer. So we'll go ahead and get them changed out as well. All right, so here we go. Gotta get the old one out. So pretty much grasp it from the back, just pull, it pops the clip out, and then pull backwards to slide the front tag out. Then once you're out far enough, get a pocket screwdriver or something with a small flat blade. Get in there and just lift the clip for the locking tab for the electrical connector, and then it slides right off just like that. So what happens up here is the glue comes off, and then you start getting water in here, then you get debris. See, this is where it's separated here, and that's why you get dirt and everything else that accumulates in the bottom here. It does have a drain in the bottom, but it was kind of bothering me in there, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. And then it's a little dirty there, so we'll go ahead and clean that real quick. Just using some regular cleaner here. Clean out the area, making sure no dirt. All right. Then you want to take the new one. Take the electrical connector. Just be careful because there's really no play to the harness, so you don't scratch the fender or the bumper. Slide in there, listen for the click, and then this is going to be difficult because it doesn't really want to slide into place very well. So you got to like push and then get it to fit in there and go slow. And once it's in there, it'll lock in like that. Not too terribly difficult, but it can be a little challenging. It's not just really easy on some of the side markers where you pull the back out and it'll slide backwards. It's kind of like a two-word motion where you got to push in and then also clip it in. All right, we'll go ahead and do the other side as well. All right, so same thing here. Pull there so it pops the back clip out, and then see how I said it's really tight for some reason. I don't understand why. It really gives you no room to maneuver. And then just take the screwdriver, lift the locking tab up, and then pull it off. And then we'll do the same thing here, where we'll clean the area out. But so what can happen is you can get a lot of debris up in there, and then if it's just a little bit loose, it'll rattle and then also scratch the paint and or collect other debris and make it look dirty. All right, now we can put the new one in. So same thing as before, get the connector. Just be careful, slide it in, here the lock, and then What you want to do here is push. And just like that, it's in. I think it's in. Yeah, it's in. It just doesn't look. Yep, there it is. So just, I guess a little bit more caution than other side markers for other cars, but as long as you're careful with everything, it'll pretty much go smooth. You won't damage anything. All right, so we're gonna do the brake flush now. Gotta get the wheels off. So I'll go ahead and get all the wheels off and we'll get started. Always set your lock or your locks. Always set your lift down on your locks, but so you don't ever want the weight just completely resting on the hydraulic cylinders. You always want the weight resting on the locks as intended. All right, let me get the stuff out and we'll go ahead and get the wheels off. All right, go ahead and get the wheels off. They're 19 millimeters heads for the GT4. And then I'm gonna pop off all but one and I'll show you why here in a minute. All right, now that since we got all four but one out, the reason why I just wait to take the last one out is because you want to make sure you install these removal studs, because with wheel bolts, there's nothing else holding the wheel up there once you take the last one off, so it's just going to potentially fall. So that's where these come in handy. And then you always want to put these on the top. So then once we get all these installed on both sides, we can take that last bolt out and then the wheel's not going to go nowhere. And it'll also protect your, if you have carbon fiber rotors, it'll also protect them as well. And they also help you for going back on with the wheels too. So get the last bolt out, and then pretty much all you want to do is grab the wheel and then pick it up straight off. And that helps you guide it off to where there's no potential for damaging the rotor. So the last thing you want to do is chip your $4,000 rotor. And always, never ever set the rims face down, because the rim face will hit the ground and you will scratch it. All right, now we got all four off. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it down to a more manageable level to make it easier to do the brake flush. Gotta lift it up to get it off the locks. release the locks and let it down. That should be good enough, so. And again, just make sure everybody's sitting on the locks. Actually, I'm gonna have to go down one more. All right, now you want to take this trim panel out, because that's where the master cylinder is. Get the master cylinder right here. So there's two different thoughts to doing this. You can either do a pressure bleed or you can do a vacuum bleed. I don't have a pressure system, so I'm going to go ahead and do the vacuum bleed, but either way doesn't make a difference. The only other thing you probably should do is run ABS bleed if you have a scan tool to help cycle the fluid through the ABS module, but eventually, if you don't have all the special tools, eventually it will make its way through the ABS module just by normal driving and everything else during actuation tests. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll go ahead and get the fluid in and show you what I'm using. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So I've already filled the reservoir up to max. Just also make note of where it was beforehand, because you want to make sure you return the level to the same level that it was at before. Because if you do go through a pad change on your car and you put pads in it, squeeze the calipers in, and that level you set it full where it should have been below full, it'll end up overflowing when you push the brake fluid from the calipers back to the reservoir when you replace pads. So just make a note of that. Also, so what I'm using here is just pretty much easy extractor here. It's just made by Wellbill. It's something from AutoZone or whatever, but it does the job. I've used it on my jet skis and all kinds of things to suck fluid out, and for easy small jobs like this, where you can use a vacuum operated bleeder from air or a bigger hand pump, but this does the job just as much. And then also need an 11mm wrench to crack the bleeders loose. So what you want to do is crack the bleeder loose, and then start sucking a vacuum on it. And you want to pull the fluid through till you start, if it's dirty, you want to make sure you start pulling to where it's clean. And then we'll go ahead and pull a good amount through here, just to make sure we're getting good fluid through here. And then also don't forget to always check your reservoir. Make sure you don't get it below the level where you start sucking air into it. It's always good to change your brake fluid every so often, or if you do a lot of tracking, just because of the constant heat cycles and everything breaks down the fluid, and you could potentially lose the properties of the brake fluid, and it won't be as good as what it's rated for. And then I'll go ahead and do this about another minute or so, and then we'll move on to the next caliper. All right, so pretty much once you start seeing the color change of the fluid starting to come out of the caliper, that means you're getting in the brand new clean fluid. So we're just about there because I can see the color changing on it. So we'll suck a little bit more through just to make sure we're good. And then what I always do is I make sure there's pressure on pulling the fluid out as I close the bleeder screw. So I'll pump it up a bunch, and then I'll close the bleeder screw. Give it a couple pumps to pull all the excess fluid in the line out through it. And I'll go ahead and top the reservoir off for the next wheel. And then just be careful so you don't spill when you're filling the reservoir back up. If you think you're going to spill, you can go ahead and get a funnel. I'll pump it up a couple more times, and I'll go ahead and pull off the line. And then you want to make sure you clean off the bleeder screw to make sure there's no brake fluid sitting anywhere, because it could damage the caliper or the paint. So I'll get some brake clean. Spray it on a rag and just wipe everything down, just to make sure there's no brake fluid lying anywhere. And then always make sure to put the rubber cap back on the top of the bleeder so it protects the end and there's no debris or dust that get up in there. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the back, one of the back calipers now. All right, so I got everything all hooked up. So I'll go ahead and crack the bleeder open, and then we'll start sucking some fluid through. And then you want to do the same thing, is just keep sucking the fluid out till the color changes. So you get more, you get clean fluid coming through, or cleaner. You'll notice the color change once it happens. This would be a lot easier with a pressure bleeder where you have pressure pushing it through the reservoir, but I don't have a pressure bleeder. I just use what I have. Probably should have got my air-assisted vacuum bleeder out. Probably would have made things a lot easier, but who am I? This works, but you just need a lot of arm muscle here. And always don't forget to make sure you periodically check your master cylinder and make sure you don't take the fluid level too low where you start sucking air in it. Then you're going to have to bleed the brakes. And then, as you can see in the bottle, there's all that dirty fluid coming out, that brown, dark brown tint to it. The new brake fluid from Porsche is a nice gold color. go ahead and check the reservoir and make sure it's not getting empty. Still got a little bit more we can pull out before I have to add. I can already start to see the color change in this one. So we're almost done. And then, yes, some may call me silly for not bleeding both sides of the caliper, but I don't really track the car, so I don't need to make sure every single bit of old fluid's out. As long as I got the majority of it, it's fine. But you can definitely bleed. There are bleeders on both sides of the caliper. But with the brake crossover tube at the bottom, it'll pretty much come in and push the old fluid that's in the back side of the caliper around to the front side of the caliper, to where if there is any residual old fluid, it's not much. And then once it mixes with the new fluid, the percentage goes down of the old fluid versus the new, and it's really not that big of a deal. All right, so I'm really starting to see that gold color now. So I'll give it a couple more pumps, and then we'll start closing her down. And then what I do is just pull the pressure up and close it as it's pulling fluid out. That way no air can go back into the caliper. All right, that one's done, and then I'll do the other side, but you guys don't really need to see that. It's pretty much the same thing over and over again, and then I'll show you the ABS bleed with the scan tool. All right, so I went through the brake bleed function to cycle the ABS pump, but unfortunately, I'm gonna need to pressure bleed it because the iCarSoft Porsche 3.0 requires at least 28 to 30 psi of pressure on the brake system to do it. So unfortunately, I cannot do the brake bleed and actuate the hydraulic pump motor. But if you feel like you need to do that, let's say, I'm sure that you can get a pressure bleeder to be able to do that. I'm good with just what I did there with the vacuum bleed, pulling it through the system. To me, there's no right or wrong way of doing that there. The only thing is you can't flush all the fluid out of the ABS module. If you're concerned about that, it'll work its way out over time of just driving and running the car. But unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to. And even though with this, it was really hard to find the brake bleed function. It was under one of the service functions, because unfortunately, there was actually no ABS module listed under all the 33 control modules the car may or may not have had. There was no direct link to the ABS module. Not sure why on that. I'll have to do more research there, but just to watch out with the iCarSoft, there was no direct link to the ABS module. So if you're looking for this just for the ABS module, just be careful of that. I'll have to look at it. Maybe it might be an update or something with that. Not really sure how it's got all the modules except for the ABS, but we'll look into that. But I just want to give you guys a watch out there. But the biggest thing here is, once you're done, make sure you test the brake pedal and make sure you have a firm, stiff brake pedal. And if you do not, you're gonna have to manually bleed the brakes. All right, so that's pretty much it. One thing you wanna do is make sure you top off your master cylinder correctly where it was before. If you're off just by a little bit, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. Where it's gonna matter is if you're off by a lot, to where if you have new brake pads and you don't fill it correctly, and potentially during the end of life of the brake pad, you could end up below the minimum level and you could suck air, so you want to be careful there. Or if you overfill it and you had new brake or low brake pads and you overfill it and you go to replace the brake pads, you could potentially end up with a mess once you push the fluid from the calipers back to the master cylinder, once you retract the calipers or the pistons back into the calipers. So you just want to be careful there to kind of get it close to where you were before. And don't worry, if you do get it over, you can always take out the little screen in there and then just suck some fluid out of the reservoir itself. It's pretty simple. This one's not too complicated. So we'll go ahead and get the car back together now and then put the wheels back on. Oh. I got it backwards. What a dummy. Just make sure line it up, and then you just want to pull the weather strip back over the lip of the panel. All right, once that's on, just make sure, like me, you got a low ceiling, you want to make sure you close the hood. If not, the hood's going to hit the roof. So go ahead and close it, and then I'll latch it because I'm done with it. And then we'll get it greased up with the wheels. And then with this being on here, it makes it just as easy getting the wheel off getting the wheel back on as it was off. So just want to line up the hole with the one, and then here just want to be careful when we slide it on. Make sure you slide it up and over the hub there. And then same thing with the vacuum. If you don't feel confident, you can always buy 8 of these and have 2 per wheel, to where that makes there's no issues of hitting anything or damaging anything, because as you see here, the front caliper is real close to the wheel. But personal preference. And then I go and, before I pull this out, I'll go and hand start the 4 to make sure they're started. And then you could definitely use electric impact or whatever to start them, but I like doing by hand just to make sure there's no scratching of the rim and that they start correctly. Once they're in there, just go ahead and take the alignment stud out, and then we can put the last one in there. And I'll get them all started before I torque them up. One thing that makes it nice is where I don't torque them, I have torque sticks set to the exact foot-pound, and they're only off by a certain minimal percentage where it doesn't make a difference. But I would say if you're serious about it and you have a pet peeve, definitely by all means please torque them with a torque wrench. Or if you're tracking the car, I would go ahead and torque them. But I've used torque sticks for about 15 years now and never had a single lug nut fall off or a wheel come loose on me. So I pretty much swear by them. I have seen them break in long-term service where they'll end up splintering eventually and then they just crack. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and get the wheels tight, and then we'll be right back. All right, got the wheels back on. Just adjust the tire pressure. Haven't Gotta take the old winter air back out, put summer air back in. One thing some guys commented, I'll go ahead and show you. They wondered why I put the lift so close to the wall, but I'll show you how much room I got on this side to work. So it doesn't really look like much, but it's actually, once I set the car down, I got all the room from here all the way to the wheel. It's probably within reason of just having enough to work, but it's enough to pretty much do everything within reason and still keep adequate space over here for all the kids' toys and everything, you know? So that's the only reason. But if I had to do major work on the passenger side of vehicles, I would just flip the car around and bring it in backwards. So go ahead and get it down off the lift. Just make sure it raises up off the lock. Oh, I guess it is down. It just didn't look down to me. Yep, it's down. So yeah, anybody considering a lift for the garage, I'll definitely recommend the Max Jack 2-post. I've used it a lot now and had almost zero issues with it, which has been fantastic. The only issue I had was with the one trim cylinder, but the Max Jack warranty film. The only downside with my garage, because I have a slope, is I have to jack up the rear just a little bit because the pads won't fit under the rear of this car. But I'm in the process of getting custom made pads for the rear here, to where I shouldn't have to worry about that anymore. But I wouldn't say it's a characteristic of this lift. I would say it's more a characteristic because of how my floor is, where I have to have a slope because of code, and where the lift is straight and flat, because I've grinded the pad flat, the car is not. All right, go start it up, check the brake pedal, make sure that's okay again. Like I said, I've already checked it, it's nice and hard, but I just want to make sure I check it again. And here's the fluid that came out of it. As you can see, it's kind of discolored, but not a gold color. And then, honestly, all I did was put through 1 full liter, and I've got an extra liter just in case. And then here, I'll show you, see if you guys can see the color in here. See, it's almost see-through, and it's like a shiny gold color, but it doesn't really do it justice. But it was definitely dirty. We got it all swapped out. But yeah, this is practically empty. Probably not gonna be able to keep it, just because you don't want to keep empty can like this around for a while, because brake fluid does attract moisture, and it's got all the air pocket inside of here, which it'll suck the moisture out of that air. So I'll probably just throw it away because I have a brand new can as well. All right, guys, let me get everything together. We'll go ahead and take it for a ride and make sure the brake pedal's good. You always want to make sure that you're going to take the car for a ride when you're done. Make sure there's no issues with the brakes. Once you did any type of service with them, make sure everything's okay before you really put any load on the system, to make sure you're not going to have an issue. So let's go ahead and take it for a ride. Yeah. All right, let's get this started up and take it for a ride. Just again, make sure the brake pedal feels nice and stiff with vacuum on it, and it does feel good. So we'll go ahead and get it backed out once the revs calm down from cold startup and see how she performs. As I'm backing down my driveway here, the brakes feel just like normal. I don't feel any difference with them. But we'll take it out just to make sure everything's okay. And you just want to be easy on them at first, just to make sure nothing crazy happens or nothing silly. You don't want to put yourself in a predicament where you have to have an issue or potentially engage the parking brake. Everything feels like normal. We have a little rip here. Everything feels good. Brake before we come up here to stop. Everything feels just like normal, but I don't really feel anything different than before. It feels identical to everything I did or before we even touched it. I apologize to all you guys. I haven't given you guys more rides in the car. It just hasn't been driven much this year. About to say winter weather's been kind of crappy, and then on the weekends it's been like really crappy with rain or snow. But hopefully now with the weather turning good, we can get some good footage. to tackle your own projects on your own Porsche or car in general. There's a lot of knowledge is transfers across platform, which is really only specific for locations and stuff per the vehicle. But every car's got brakes, every car's got brake fluid, and everything needs changed every once in a while. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out there, and with some of the rising costs, helps you get the Porsche cheaper to where you can do your own basic maintenance yourself, and get into a Porsche or something else to where it gives you the confidence of doing everything you want to your car. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up the side marker change and the brake fluid change. Brake fluid's good for at least another 3-4 years. But just make sure, the key thing is make sure the pedal feels good, and if you have to question the pedal, definitely err on the side of caution, and if you have to, bleed the brakes. You never want to have an issue with your brakes go out on you, or have any issue where the pedal drops to the floor. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this helps some of you. Like and subscribe if you like my videos, or leave some comments below to help me out. Well, thanks for watching, guys.